This is lesson 2.1 for 8th grade accelerated math. We are going to talk today about equations of lines and point slope formula. Okay, the first part is the warm-up, so if you haven't done this yet, then pause the video and then go back and do the warm-up and then come back and make sure you got it all right. On number 1, to find the slope, you're going to do y minus y over x minus x. You have to do those in the same order. And so the answer is -2. So the slope is equal to -2. On number 2, you're going to check the y minus y, so that's 1, and the x minus x is 0, so 1 over 0. That's undefined. You cannot divide by 0. And so this slope we say is undefined. Okay, looking at number 3, if we look at this, if you look at your rise, which could be like if I just pick 2 points, I'm going to go down -2, and then my run is 0. That's also undefined. And so that slope is undefined. Looking back at number 2, if you were to graph those ordered pairs, if you went to 7, 9, and then 7, 10, and then 7, 11, and 7, 12, that's going to make a vertical line also. So that looks like number 3. So anytime you have a vertical line, that is an undefined slope. Okay, if we look at number 4, pick 2 points on this line, and we can say the rise is 0, and my run is 3, and 0 divided by anything is equal to 0. So this is a slope of 0. Anytime you have a horizontal line, that's a slope of 0. Okay, number 5, we're going to write the equation. So remember that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept, so where it crosses the y-axis. So looking at number 5, it crosses the y-axis at -2, so b is equal to -2. And then pick another point, and let's find what the slope is. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope is 3/5. So when I write the equation of the line, let's see, I'm running out of space. I'm going to write y equals 3/5 x minus 2, and that's the equation of the line that's in that graph. Number 6, my y-intercept is +2. My slope is negative. I can see that it's going down, and so I know that my slope is going to be a negative number. I'm going to go down 1, and I'm going to run 3. So my equation is going to be y equals -1/3 x plus 2. Okay, and then number 7, my y-intercept is 0. My slope I can see is also negative, just like in number 6, because it's going down. So I know my slope will be a negative number. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1. Down 4 over 1. So my slope is -4. Y equals -4x plus 0. We don't need to write the plus 0, so that is the equation. Okay, number 8, it says the line in number 3. So if we go back and look at number 3, this is a vertical line. The way you write an equation for this is there is no y-intercept. It doesn't cross the y-axis anywhere. So the y equals mx plus b doesn't exactly apply the same way. So what you're going to do is you're going to think, okay, there's a vertical line. It crosses the x-axis, and all of these points, no matter which ordered pair we're talking about, every single ordered pair has an x-coordinate of 4. So it's like 4, 0, 4, +1, 4, +2, 4, +3. So all of them are 4 something. And so the equation for that is going to be x equals 4. And so if I was going to write something for number 2, all of the x's there are 7. So this equation is x equals 7. Now how does that compare to number 4? So when I look at number 4, that one does have a y-intercept. It's at -3. But you notice all the other ordered pairs, 2, -3, 4, -3, 0, -3, 1, -3. What do you notice about all of them? All of them, the y-coordinate is -3. So with a horizontal line, the equation is always going to be y equals a constant, and that constant is where it goes through the y-axis. So you want to make sure that you understand about those types of lines and you know how to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Today what we're going to talk about is something new, and this is a way that you can write an equation of a line given certain information. This is called point-slope formula. And this is what the formula is. It's y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. M is the slope. X sub 1 and y sub 1 is a point on the line. So if I know the slope and I know one of the points that it goes through, so if I know my slope is -2 and it has to go through the point, 2, 1, then there's only one line it could be, but what's the equation of that line? And so this formula helps me find that because I don't have the y-intercept, and so I don't have enough information to use y equals mx plus b. Okay, before we do that, let's talk about some definitions also. When we talk about x and y, we have two different variables. One of them is considered an input and one is considered an output. And so when I put a certain number in, I get a certain number out. And so I look at, like when I have y equals mx plus b, so let's say y equals 2x minus 1. If I put a number in for x, I'm going to get something out for y. And so when we start using equations with two variables, we have to understand that the variables represent something. So the x variable is, or the x value is called the independent variable, and that's the input. And it's also known as the domain, which we'll talk about later. But the input and the x value and the independent variable, you've probably heard those before. The dependent variable is the exact opposite. And so it says the dependent variable is dependent on whatever you're inputting. So the dependent variable is the y value. It's the output. And the opposite of domain is called range. And the nice thing about these is they're all alphabetical. So those help. Independent and dependent's not, but anyway, you get the idea. So you need to remember what all of those words are. We're going to be using all of them a lot. It just depends on the situation which one is more useful or more prevalently used. Okay, let's worry about using point-slope formula. So we're going to use this formula, and so like I said, we're going to use it if we know the slope and we know a point that the line goes through. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking for a line that goes through the point -3, 5, and there's a billion lines that go through that point, but I want the one that has a slope of 1/3. And so I need to get that equation. And so the way I'm going to get that is I'm going to take this ordered pair, this is going to be my x sub 1 and my y sub 1, and then this is m, and I just put it in my formula. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Notice that the minus sign is part of the formula, so if it's a -3, you have to put minus a negative there. Okay, so we're going to simplify that equation now. So I'm going to have y minus 5 is equal to 1/3 x and 1/3 of 3. Watch your signs there. That's going to make a huge difference. I'm going to add, 5, add 5, and I get y is equal to 1/3 x plus 6. That is the equation of the line that has a slope of 1/3 and it goes through -3, 5. Now one way that you could check that to make sure is you could take your -3 and plug it in for x and take your 5 and plug it in for y and make sure it's true. So 1/3 times -3 plus 6, that has to equal 5. And 1/3 times -3 is -1 plus 6 is in fact equal to 5. So I know that this is the right equation that satisfies both of those requirements. Okay, let's try another one. The next one, the slope is -4 and the point is +2, -1. So this is my x sub 1, my y sub 1. Especially here at the beginning, it might really help for you to label your points like that. So I'm going to say y minus -1. So the minus sign is part of the formula. So if it's a negative, you also have to put a negative. So then I'm going to do that. Then -4 times x minus 2. And then you simplify. So I'm going to have y plus 1 equals, distribute, -4x plus 8. I'm going to solve it for y so that it's in slope-intercept form. So y is equal to -4x plus 7. And that's my line. Okay, now I'm going to go to 13. I want you to pause the video and I want you to try number 12 by yourself and see if you get it right. Okay, what you should have done is y minus 3 is equal to -3/4 times x minus 8. So y minus 3 is equal to -3/4 x. Negative times negative is positive. 1/4 of 8 is 2, so 3/4 is 6. And then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 9. So if you were doing a test or something, you could always plug in 8 right there and 3 right there and make sure it works. So is 3 really equal to negative 3/4 of 8 plus 9? Well, negative 3/4 of 8 is going to be negative 6 plus 9 is in fact equal to 3, so you know it works. And so that's a great way to know that you can check these things. Okay, again, pause, make sure you can do this one, and then we'll go on to something else. Okay, you should have had y minus negative 5 equals 2 times x minus negative 1. That's going to be a y plus 5 equals 2x plus 2. Subtract 5, and so what this does, it gets it all into slope-intercept form. So with that, then I could graph my line. I know what the slope is, I know what the y-intercept is, so a lot of helpful information. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to have a different type of information that we're given. So if you look at this, we still are supposed to use point-slope form. We need to find the equation of the line, but this time we're not given the slope. What I am given is 2 points. So if I think about it, if I have a point 10, 6, and 4, 9, like that. So I just need to find the equation of the line that does that. So that is not something we want to have to, get out graph paper and graph it. That's inefficient. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find the slope, because in a point slope form, you have to have a point, which we have 2 of those, and then we have to have a slope. We need to find that. So I'm going to find the slope. So remember, slope is y minus y over x minus x. If you put x's on top, you're going to get it wrong. So 9 minus 6 over 4 minus 10. Now if I wanted, I could do 6 minus 9, but then I'd have to do 10 minus 4. So you just have to make sure whatever order you do it in the same order. So 9 minus 6 is equal to 3. 4 minus 10 is negative 6, and so that's negative 1/2, and that is my slope. I find it very helpful now to box that in so I know. Now here's the interesting part about this. You need a point. We have 2 of them. We have this one and this one. It does not matter which one you choose. Both of them will work because they're both on the line that we're going to choose. So I'm going to do it 2 ways. So I'm going to take the 10, 6, and I'm going to use that. So I'm going to do y minus 6 is equal to negative 1/2 times x minus 10. So y minus 6 is equal to negative 1/2 x, and then negative times negative is positive, half of 10 is 5. Add 6. Y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 11. Okay, that's the equation of the line. Now what I was telling you is it doesn't matter if I used 4, 9, I would still get the same answer if I used 4, 9. So let's try it. Y minus 9 equals negative 1/2, because that's still the slope, times x minus 4. So I'm just using this negative 1/2, that's the slope. So y minus 9 is equal to negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times negative 4 is positive 2. Add 9 to both sides. Y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 11. And that's exactly the same line. So it doesn't matter which point you use. Once you have the slope, you can use either point. Okay, let's try, I guess this one was use the other. Yeah, sorry, this one was what I had set up to do the other option. So using this on 13, I guess, and this on 14. So we don't need to do that again. Okay, the next one, we've got these 2 points. So here again, we have to figure out the slope. So number 1, find the slope. That's your first thing. Make sure you have a slope. So y minus y over x minus x. 7 minus 7 is 0. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. 0 divided by any number is 0. So my slope is equal to 0. Now one thing that you need to know is you need to know what does that mean for your line. And so if you remember, we talked about that on the warm-up, like if a slope is equal to 0. So we already talked about that a little bit. But if your slope is equal to 0, that means that your rise is 0 and your run would be like negative 8. So that means that if you pick a point, you're going to rise up 0 and you're going to go negative 8. So it's going to be a horizontal line. All horizontal lines will have a slope of 0. And so if you remember that, that's going to help a lot. Now when you have a horizontal line, what axis does it cross? Okay, it crosses the y-axis. So that's some things that are always true. And I'll show you something else in just a second. Okay, the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to use point slope formula. So again, just choose a point. It doesn't matter. I'll do this one. So y minus 7 equals 0 times x minus negative 3. y minus 7 is equal to 0 times anything is 0. Add 7 to both sides, you get y equals 7. Whenever you have a horizontal line, the equation is always going to be y equals, because it goes through the y-axis, so y equals, and then look at both of your y's on these ordered pairs. If you look at both of the y's, they're both 7. And so actually we could have done this equation if we would have noticed that both of the y's were 7. We could have found the equation without actually having to do anything, if you notice that. Okay, let's try another one. So this one we're going to find the slope. So I'm going to have 11 minus 7 over 0 minus negative 2. That's 4 over 2 is 2. So if you have a choice and you have a point that has 0, I would always pick that one because the math is going to be a little bit easier. Because I would rather subtract 0 than something else. So y minus 11 equals 2x, and then 2 times 0 is just 0, so I don't have anything else there. Add 11 to both sides. Now, one other thing to notice about this one. If you had these two ordered pairs, so negative 2, positive 7, and then 0, 11, and you connected them, your y-intercept is at 0, 11. So if you have a point that says 0 something, that's a y-intercept. So there's these little things that you notice as you get familiar with lines, and that can help you make things more efficient and move more quickly if you notice those things and you pay attention to patterns like that. If you didn't notice that, that's fine. You can always use point-slope formula to come up with your equation. Okay, I want you to pause the video and see if you can do this one yourself, and then come back and see how you did. First thing you should have done is find the slope. So I'm going to have 4 minus 3 over negative 1 minus negative 1. So that's 1 over 0. Okay, this is not the same thing as 0. This is actually undefined. So maybe you thought to look back on your warm-up when we talked about this. What does a line look like if it's undefined? Or if the slope is undefined? So if the slope is undefined, it's a vertical line every single time. Every single time. Now the problem is if we go to do point slope, let's just use the first point. If I do this, what am I going to put here? The word undefined? That doesn't make any sense. I can't multiply that by x minus negative 1. That makes no sense. I can't do that. And so on a problem like this, you're going to have to just know what to do. And so it's imperative that you understand that if the slope is undefined, you have a vertical line, and that vertical line crosses the x-axis. And so that gives you a clue. Look at the x's in your point. Look at your points. Look at the x's. What do you notice about them? They're both equal to negative 1. And that is your equation of the line. So when you have a special case like your slope is undefined or the slope is 0, like we saw right here, those two you need to know what happens then, because if you don't, you can kind of get stuck because you don't really know what to do. Okay, this is the end of the first part of the lesson, so you can go to the second part to continue on.